12 Happy Family Rules That Never Work. Welcome to Work-iBrainhacks for another educational video. At the point when we get hitched, we get offered a ton of counsel and thoughts regarding decides that as far as anyone knows decide how to lead a glad day-to-day life, what to do, when and how to do it, and what you unquestionably shouldn't do. In any case, possibly it's a superior thought just to disregard the entirety of this and not become involved with overanalyzing everything. Number 1. Never lie to your accomplice. Individuals who encourage you to never mislead your accomplice presumably don't keep this standard themselves. Everybody lies, that is reality. Keeping quiet and leaving things implied additionally considers lying. Simply envision how much aggravation you could both stay away from if you don't raise every one of the little subtleties at those minutes when it will not help to do as such. Number 2. Be a feeble lady for your resilient man. The inclination to every so often acts as a frail lady for your man can accidentally transform into an inordinate level of juvenile conduct. Keep in mind, you wedded your accomplice as an equivalent. Try not to transform into a fanciful youngster, act naturally. Number 3. Do not utilize sex as an approach to make up. You may mope for quite a while over a silly matter, yet you can't make up in a way you appreciate. The purposes behind clashes seeing someone, all things considered, can show up out of nowhere, and this is a decent method to release such negligible quarrels. Try not to imagine it doesn't get the job done. Number 4. Spend your extra energy together. On the off chance that you need to take a break from one another, do it. Hobnobbing is significant, obviously, yet you ought to possibly do so when you need to. Quality is more significant here than amount. Number 5. Find an action you can do together. There's nothing more regrettable than driving your accomplice to share your inclinations. On the off chance that he doesn't care for going to the theater or displays and you have no premium at all in sport, at that point both of you ought to do whatever you might feel like doing independently. That way, both of you will be brimming with a positive feeling, and that will genuinely improve the climate at home. Number 6. Do not squabbles over easily overlooked details. There's no compelling reason to disregard every one of your complaints and grievances peacefully. If you do, one day that specific hidden mortar will go off startlingly, and afterward, you'll have a genuine struggle. Talk about what you're unsettled about immediately. Be straightforward, and you'll before long discover that some apparently illegal subjects can be uncovered without contentions and be settled calmly. Number 7. Children start things out. Guardians ought to, obviously, consistently be there for their kids when they need them and care for and ensure them however much they can. Nonetheless, you shouldn't just disregard yourself and your accomplice when you have children. Put away one evening 7 days, or in any event once every month, only for one another. Number 8. Turn your coexistence into a gathering. Supporting each other shouldn't be an instance of paying some dues. The main thing is to feel good feelings. If you get a ton of joy basically out of relaxing around on the sofa together toward the finish of an extreme week, at that point nobody has the privilege to censure you. Number 9. Work on your relationship. Numerous individuals take dealing with your relationship unreasonably in a real sense. A few couples wind up investing a ton of their energy having excessively genuine discussions about where they're turning out badly, while others are too anxious to even consider hurrying off for joint meetings with a relationship advisor. However, the main thing you ought to do during troublesome periods in your relationship is to rest, let go of your issues, and try not to make new ones. That way you will not want to give third individual access to your relationship. Number 10. On the off chance that you develop your kid's confidence, he'll act better. The hypothesis today is by all accounts that assuming you can cause your kid to have a positive outlook on himself, by one way or another his conduct will change. I can't reveal to you the number of families I've worked with who've discovered that this is a finished error. Depend on it, kids don't feel their approach to better conduct. However, they can act their approach to better sentiments. Confidence and self-esteem come from doing things that you can regard and that you can regard. Confidence additionally comes from doing things that are hard for you. Take a gander at it thusly: if your youngster's school is attempting to develop your kid by giving him good grades on work that is unremarkable or that is excessively simple for him, do you truly think your kid is tricked? Before long he begins to figure he can drift through school and life. What's more awful, within his reasoning, nobody anticipates a lot of me. That should mean I truly am inept. So the intercession for the confidence issue, the prizes he's given to rest easy thinking about himself, frequently has the specific inverse impact. If you need children to have confidence, show them how to take care of issues, show them how to perform. You can begin with little errands and afterward help them develop their approach to greater ones. Depend on it, confidence comes from doing admirable demonstrations, dignity comes from doing good demonstrations. On the off chance that someone isn't playing out those demonstrations, they're never going to have confidence. Number 11. Extreme young adult stages are a piece of life. They'll pass. Teenagers in some cases explore different avenues regarding perilous things. Furthermore, for certain youngsters, this stage passes. As far as I can tell, for some, numerous different teenagers, it doesn't. Go to any school and take a gander at the measure of substance misuse going on and you'll perceive what I mean. One error guardians make is to defend this conduct. So they say, both to themselves and to their kid, goodness, it is anything but no joking matter, each youngster beverages or tests with pot eventually. Realize that on the off chance that you tell your kid, each child does it, thus did I, you've quite recently allowed him to do it, as well. Most importantly, these aren't simply young adult stages for some children. These are things they attempt, yet then they stall out there. Now and then it's forceful conduct, a few teenagers and pre-youngsters get into feeling amazing and applying pressure where needed. In any case, avoid mincing words about it. Vicious, loudly oppressive, damaging young people become savage, obnoxiously harmful, dangerous grown-ups except if some solid mediation happens. Viciousness isn't a stage. Substance misuse is another illustration of juvenile conduct that doesn't disappear all alone. Individuals frequently say that kids test with drugs. I love the word analyze. I picture a child with a white coat and a rodent in the storm cellar smoking pot. Except if he's a specialist or a lab tech, he's not testing, he's utilizing drugs. Liquor utilization is likewise exceptionally unsafe for youngsters. Grown-ups may consider liquoring a social ointment, yet for youngsters who are under an enormous measure of pressure or nervousness, drinking or getting high gives them alleviation, and that is something perilous. It gets enchanting, and it's incredibly hard for these children not to return for additional. Guardians should be certain that smoking pot, drinking, and taking medications are high-hazard exercises. In addition to the fact that they are risky because they influence your youngster's judgment, they likewise influence his capacity to tackle issues. It's vital to ask yourself, what do I need my youngster to learn? If you need him to discover that everyone smokes pot and beverages, at that point disclose to him that it's typical. Be that as it may, I figure guardians ought to say to their children, medication and liquor use is out. It's terrible for you. Make it clear all along. In puberty, there are sure formative undertakings that children need to learn, similar to how to manage uneasiness and disappointment. On the off chance that they use medications and liquor to try not to become familiar with these undertakings, they will address a cost in adulthood. What's more, that cost will be that they won't be furnished to manage these troublesome feelings as grown-ups. Number 12. To make a disciplined work, you need to make it truly hurt. I figure guardians can stall out in a pattern of attempting to raise the stakes with regards to rebuffing their children. As such, each time their youngster gets rowdy, they believe they need to track down a greater and greater sled to manage it. These guardians constantly wind up getting disappointed because at last, this doesn't work. Before long they begin to feel like there's no way to break through to their youngster. My experience is that no one at any point changed from being rebuffed. In our general public, we rebuff constantly, however, we have a high re-offense rate, regardless of whether it's speeding on the roadway, drug use, or shoplifting. Also, we have an exceptionally high recidivism rate in our jails. I'm not saying that individuals shouldn't be rebuffed for these wrongdoings, my point is just that discipline without learning doesn't bring about better conduct. Allow me to put it another way, a discipline that does exclude figuring out how to tackle the issue properly sometime later, and afterward being considered responsible for your conduct, isn't viable. Suppose your kid was frightful with his sister. You disclose to him he's grounded for a month, however now he's simply going to do time, he'll do his month and afterward go free. What does he realize when this occurs? You trust he'll learn, if I do that once more, I will be grounded for a month. But truly when he's disturbed, he will not recollect that discipline by any stretch of the imagination. Indeed, most children, and numerous grown-ups, can't remember past disciplines with sufficient ability to influence current conduct. By and by, I figure outcomes ought to be task-situated. At the point when your youngster is given outcomes, it ought to be a learning experience, not a corrective one. I additionally accept there ought to be something upsetting connected to it. For example, you may conclude that your kid can't utilize the PC until he approaches his sister with deference. You can say, "You can't utilize your telephone until you don't revile at your sister for 24 hours. And so the outcomes ought to be task situated, not time arranged, and the time ought to be associated with the undertaking. You can likewise move toward longer time frames. So the first occasion when he ought not to revile for 24 hours, at that point the following time, you can extend it to 48 hours. As such, you're getting your kids discretion to do push-ups and get more grounded. Even though you may even beginning with 60 minutes, the objective is for him to make it throughout the day without swearing. Keep in mind, train your kid what his duties are, show him how to meet them, and afterward consider him responsible if he doesn't. Eventually, regardless of whether your youngster has social issues or execution issues, you will likely show him how to work effectively throughout everyday life. Please leave a comment below, like and share with your friends and family. Don't forget to subscribe iBrainhacks to watch latest videos.